How y'all doing? That's good. Well, I have the unique honor of getting to introduce Bertha. We all need like a hype person, right? So I'm kind of like Bertha's hired friend, hype person. So I kind of need like a white towel. So we met and we talked about this because at first glance I said, you know, I'm not certain with the theme that I'm the best person to be up here, and knowing Bertha, she said, no, the work of welcoming takes people who also welcome and see people fully. And part of building peace is holding tension on both sides. And so leave it to Bertha to say, no, I want you to introduce me. So I'm the author of a book, Becoming More Human, Words from the Soul. And it's through really meeting people in different cultures that made me human over time. I didn't know it, but I was raised in a family where my mom's best friend was Syrian and they emigrated here from Mexico. And as a kid, I was just always at their family reunions. And still to this day, my mom, it's a Syrian word, calls herself Situ, which is Syrian for grandma for my dog. So when she sees my dog, she says Situ. So I was welcomed by immigrant families and newly arrived before when you're a kid, you just don't know. You're like, hey, it's Aunt Sybil, and these are my brothers and sisters. And I think I was probably 10 before I realized, well, maybe not by blood, but by the heart. And I hope that that's what happens here today, is that you get a little essence of Bertha's heart, you get an essence of the poets here. And so I'm going to share just a little more of her formal introduction, and then I have a poem about her that when I first met her just really deeply impacted me. So, this is Bertha. Yeah, can we get a round of applause? First off, this is a lot of work to get here and have to acknowledge you, because I believe in my career in life, 80% of change happens when people show up. Yeah. So first to you, look to your partner, so look to someone next to you and just real quick say, hey, thanks for showing up. Yeah. And so Bertha is a highly sought after poet, peace builder, refugee advocate, and cultural diplomat. While she hails from Burundi, she was born in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and spent her formative years in Tanzania as a refugee. She then relocated to the US as a teenager, blessing us all with her presence. As someone who identifies as a third culture kid, Bertha is a global citizen with a deep appreciation for cultural diversity and linguistic richness. Along with English, she speaks Kirundi, Swahili, and French at varying levels. Can you say hello in all of those?
Mahoro in Kirundi, which basically means hello, and in Kirundi we use mahoro, peace, to say hello. And then in Swahili, jambo, which again, hello. And then in French, bonjour, or salut, one.
I love it. And I'm gonna add one because it's one of my favorite words for hello. It's Zulu, and it's sawubona. But it means I see you and I honor your entire presence. Sometimes other languages, that's a lot better than hello, right? Bertha has been commissioned to write poems for the ambassador of Burundi, American University of Public Affairs, the French Embassy. She has also performed as a youth refugee voice for the Collaborative on Global Children's Issues. Recently at Rwanda Day in front of President Paul Kagame, she earned her bachelor's degree from Berry College in sociology and anthropology, then earned her master's degree, and this will explain some of my poem, from the American University School of International Service, specializing in peace building and youth empowerment. She envisions a world where all people can lead and live with their unique identities and cultural contributions. She is passionate about holding the tension needed to build peace and create space for anyone experiencing oppression, hardship, or marginalization to have their full humanity restored with a sense of home. Bertha, need to hear her.
Thank you.
One more round of applause. Okay. So, I first met Bertha in February, and it was a Saturday morning, and we were at a workshop for our church called Undivided, which was bringing people together for racial healing. And I think she was a little tired that morning. I was excited because I'm like 2 months in, and I'm like, how you doing? She's like, who's this guy talking to me? And I just got an insight and a window into her heart that day. And she doesn't know this, and I probably haven't ever told her this, but I was also doubting the power of my own poetry. And I hadn't been writing, and she introduced herself through this poem about looking within for separation, even in the wake of January 6th. And it made me look within, and then it reminded me how powerful our words are. So if there's another thing you take away today, that each one of you, like your voice, your creative pursuit matters deeply for the world. And I just hope that you share that with everybody. And then I watched her reaching across different backgrounds and cultures. I watched her acknowledge a woman who was really scared to speak up, and Bertha said, no, we need your voice too. And I was just so impacted. I was like, who is this woman? Who is she? And I looked up her LinkedIn and I saw American University. She's a peace builder. And it reminded me of one of the best leadership qualities of someone I've ever met. Her name's Denise Watts, and she's superintendent in Savannah, Georgia. I watched her in change hold tension, getting people to the third answer. So later that day, I wrote this poem called She Holds Tension about my good friend Bertha. She holds tension. That is her, blessed with an enormous capacity to hold two views, hold two sides in a way that opens up new perspective. She is always perceptive, building bridges and breaking down walls so we don't become at odds, because it is when we stop talking that people start leaving, or worse, might try to get even. She holds tension, blessed with tremendous courage and audacity to keep us even. She is the kind of person that when tension strikes, she doesn't take sides. She first looks inside at what might separate and divide. She holds tension. At times, this creates doubt. Our world so calls for splits and sides. Why can't she just conform and fall in line? But not her, because her character will never subside. It is her holding this tension that gives us space to grow. We get to the answers we have never seen. I mean, can we agree the violence in this world truly is quite obscene? It will be people like Bertha whose heart knows what it truly means to suffer. They tried to break her and push her aside, but still she refuses to take violence's side. It is her tenderness that sees humanity so fully, putting those suffering the most above. Her peace builder's heart is what we need to return our world to love. She reminds us we all must cure the separation inside, remembering there is no time to brush one another aside, because it is when we get close where we finally start to see I'm really just a part of you and you are a part of me. So I hope on this day she holds on to the truth, that the tenacity and audacity in her capacity is something to never let go, even when it is hard, even when she feels alone, even when her soul is tired and screams to just let go. This is when our world needs her the most, making sure we stay close with a voice that will never cease, where understanding will only increase, because it is when the tension holds where we finally uphold the bond of peace.
Wow, speechless. And I told John, he could say anything, just don't make me cry, because I wore a very expensive mascara today, so. But John, thank you so much. You're so generous and so kind with your words, and I was trying very hard, fighting back tears, because when John and I met, I was just in a really bad place in my life. I was going through so much, and we've only known, it hasn't even been a year, but I feel like I've known you for a lifetime, and it's crazy how that works. But yeah, February was just, there was so much going on in my families, with my family, a lot at work, and I was coming through, a heartbreak. I was just in a really, like, a very dark place, and I had known about this workshop, this racial healing and racial reconciliation workshop hosted by the church that we both go to for many months and have plans to go to, because these are the things that I really enjoy going to. But I was like, on this day, I don't have the strength, I don't have the courage. But for some reason, something in me kept saying I must go. So on that day, I said, you know what? I only have the strength to just show up and listen. I don't have the strength to talk, to meet. I don't have that. I'm just gonna go there, find a quiet corner to sit in, and be there but not be seen. I got there, and usually I'm very bubbly, but on that day I was not. I walked in and tried to not give any eye contact because I didn't want anybody to say anything to me, no greeting, no nothing. And then I walked in and I tried to find a table that I thought nobody would want to sit in the room, And I go there, I sit, and then a few minutes later, he comes up and sits next to me. And I was like, okay, cool. Just, in my head, I'm like, just don't talk to me. Like, please don't talk. But no, he started talking. First of all, not only that, I'm not a morning person at all. Like, I don't like talking in the morning. I don't understand you morning people. I don't get you. But he was so, like, his energy was like up here. I'm like, dude, it's barely like 10 o'clock. It's barely 9. It was like around 10. I'm like, no, it wasn't 10 yet. On a Saturday, why are you so, like, please stop. But then he started talking to me. He's like, I'm John, what's your name? And I was just answering him, like, not trying to be rude, but also trying to let him know, hey, like, I'm not really in a mood to talk. So I was just answering him in phrases, not even complete sentences. But he would not, like, he wouldn't, he wasn't, it's like he wasn't even noticing any of that. But before, this workshop started, and before I know it, he shared that he was a poet, and I was like, really? I'm also a poet. And then somehow I found myself sharing this poem that I wrote in the events of January 6th. During January 6th, I was just, it was just a really crazy moment, in our country. And I said, that is like, how did America get here? Like, me, of course, coming from being born, my parents are originally from Burundi, but they went to Congo during the civil unrest in 1972. So they grew up in Congo, and a lot of you guys know what's going on in the Democratic Republic of Congo. They've been at war for years. So I was born there, and then from there we left and went to Tanzania, and we left, of course, because of the war, the Second Congo War. Although I don't remember, like, I don't have any memories of being with the war and the activities of war, but my parents, tell me about them all the time. But also just growing up with that kind of environment, where your parents have lived this, they've gone through the wars, and not only one, more than one. And that really, like, the trauma gets, it's transmitted. So you have that on the inside of you. And then for some years, we kept going back and forth, from a refugee camp to just, living with the natives in Tanzania. But, so yeah, that experience, like, knowing that, I said, America is a country that we go to for peace. Like, it's not a place where people fight and do that. Why am I saying that here? I was really taken back and so shocked, but then I thought, you know what? This can happen anywhere. It can happen anywhere, and it all starts, like, it starts within. And I saw a lot of people, of course, were pointing fingers, saying, they're doing that, they're the bad ones, they're the this, they're the that. But for me, I kept saying, how did we get here? So for me, a lot of times when I find myself where I'm asking a lot of questions like that, I go back and think, what's inside of me? Like, to help me try to understand the people who are doing the things that they were doing. It's like, what is inside of me, or what have I done that might be like kind of like similar to that. So I wrote that poem, like it's called Hypocrisy of the I. So like, I'm a hypocrite. I like to think, to think that, of course, I wouldn't do that. Like, that's crazy. I am better than that. I'm a peace builder. I'm this. But however, there are moments in my life where I have not acted in such a way, right? So I read that poem, and John was so touched by it. And from there, like, we started bonding, discussing all these things. And that's how our friendship was born from there. And I remember John mentioned that this was, racial healing. There was few, mostly, people of color, mostly black people, but there were few white ladies. And there's this one white lady. She was very quiet throughout the workshop, but at some point she started speaking, and she said, "I'm sorry, I'm not the person that I don't think I should be speaking in this space," or she was just very apologetic, and I said, "What do you mean?" Like, to me, I'm like, what do you mean you shouldn't be speaking? This is a racial healing. It's a workshop about racial reconciliation. You are here for all of us to talk and discuss. Like, we are a community, and, it takes both parties in order to heal. So no, don't apologize for speaking up. Please do speak up. And I thought that was just, I was just like, well, why isn't anybody else telling her that, like, why is nobody else affirming her? And from there, John somehow, that inspired him, and he wrote that. And I was just really moved and touched, because for me, I feel like, that is the only way to live life. Like, I don't know any other way to live this life. So thank you, John, for putting those words together, and, being very generous, and hearing him, describe me in such a way. I was like, wow, yeah, like, I guess that is me. I was just so taken aback, and I'm like, wow, that's what I do. So it gave me like words to describe, kind of like myself. He helped me have words to describe the things that I feel inside of me that I never had words to describe. So that is me, that is the background, and that's how we ended up here with this event. So international peace, right? Peace is both an innate state of being and a dynamic transformative and evolutionary process. Peace begins within. As others discover inner peace, they will radiate peace and engage in peaceful way of life. We are moving beyond separation and recognizing our common humanity. The pursuit of peace is an exhilarating adventure. And in this space, we're all about cultivating the culture of peace. And that is the theme of this year's International Peace Day, cultivating a culture of peace. And with this, like, being mindful that peace starts within. You have to find peace within you, and then through that, you will engage with people in peaceful way when there's peace inside of you. But when there's no peace inside of you, there's no way you'll be able to engage in peaceful ways. It's not possible. So that's what, just wanted to set the stage here. And with that, I'll go ahead and introduce the first main performer. We'll have Mohammed Arfat. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. But he's gonna come up, and Mohammed, we've only known each other briefly. I met him on Instagram. As I was, preparing for this event, I wanted to have, the vision was to have different perspectives of, the refugee story, and have different perspectives, because although a lot of times people think that, the refugee experience is the same, it's not the same. Depending on where you're from, what country, what your gender, so many factors that contribute to making your experience different. And for me, I wanted to, if I was gonna gather people together, I wanted to give them an opportunity to hear from different perspectives, hear from, people from the continent of Africa, the Middle East, and, Asia and South America. So I was just, using research, and his name popped up. So then I tried to find a way to contact him, and finally I found him on on Instagram, I DM'd him, explained what I was trying to do, who I am, and this and that. And to my surprise, he was like, oh my gosh, this is great, that's amazing. Yes, please let me know and add me to the list, I will be there. And while doing my research, I found out that Mohammed, he's from Gaza, and he's a blogger living in Washington, D.C., working as a consultant for a federal contractor. He tries to balance his life between working hard to provide for himself and his family, scattered in Gaza and Egypt, and speaking about the nightmare of ceaseless displacement and destruction that his family is going through. So that is who he is, and just, going through his Instagram and just, Googling him, seeing the work that he has done, I was really inspired and moved. And I said, I have to meet you, even if it's not for this event. I just want to meet you and get to hear your story. So, and today you're lucky because you get to hear from himself. So please
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Bertha, for your kind words. Thank you, everyone, for making it today here. My name is Muhammad Arafat. I'm originally from Gaza. I came to the States a little more than 5 years ago. And I write poetry. The first poem I would like to read is a poem that I wrote about my mom 2 days ago, and I did not have the opportunity to print it. So I posted it on my blog, and it is called "What is a Mother?" And the reason why I wrote this poem was because recently I evacuated most of my family members outside Gaza, except 2 of my sisters who are married, who are still in Gaza right now. And one of my brothers who evacuated to Cairo, to Egypt, got a full scholarship and he went to Ireland. And I feel like the only victim or the main victim of this whole thing is my mom, who basically has daughters back home and have grandchildren, and she cannot even talk to them because of the internet and the electricity problem. She has a son in Ireland right now, and she has a son right here. So everybody is scattered, and to be honest with you, whenever I FaceTime her, I could tell and see the pain from her face, which is why I stopped FaceTiming her, just phone calls these days. So the title of the poem is "What is a Mother?" What is a mother? A heart that beats outside her chest, cradling dreams despite the sound of falling bombs, a whisper that calms the storm of fear while the world crumbles beneath her feet. What is a mother? The warmth in a home reduced to rubble, her hands searching for life beneath dust and stone. A voice that never trembles when telling her child everything will be okay. Even when her eyes have memorized loss. What is a mother? A shield that is fragile yet unbreakable, standing between her child and a war that takes without asking. She is the silence after the sirens, holding on to ghosts' names she cannot forget. What is a mother? A body that carries more than just children. It carries grief, carries hope, carries tomorrow. She is a question that is unanswered. Because even when her child is taken, she remains remembering, loving still. What is a mother? A candle that burns, her light reaching children scattered across the earth. Some in distant lands, some beneath the soil. Yet her flame flickers for them all. longing for home. I am an immigrant, and I'm a proud immigrant actually. Many of us are immigrants, and the rest of us know people who are immigrants. So everybody of us knows the stories of immigration in this country and in other countries. But we all share one thing, which is longing for home. We all have home back home. Whether it's a family, a friend, a brother, a parent, or an actual house. And we all long for home. The title of this poem is Longing for Home. We built our dreams in the dust. We searched for home in every dawn, but found only a gloomy sky, too silent to answer. In the night we whispered of lands we left, of lives we lost. And when morning came, the whispers faded, leaving nothing but the wind, carrying us somewhere, anywhere, but here, but home. We miss home. I remember when my family was still in Gaza. They informed me 2 months after the beginning of the war that they were going to evacuate our home, which was in the north, which is now damaged, unfortunately. They informed me that they are going to evacuate it, and they will go to the south, which is the Rafah and Khan Yunis area in the southern part of Gaza. And I thought there were shelters that were ready for them to basically live at or stay at. 2 days after that, I found out that my dad built a tent for them to shelter at. And since then, the ones who are remaining in Gaza have been sheltering in a tent. That tent became their house. And since then, I have been having all sorts of nightmares about living in a tent. And that inspired me to write this poem titled As I Walk in the Camp. As I walk in the camp, the sun above me, it is not smiling as it used to be. At least it has some mercy, as it gives us some warmth. Another is weeping over the loss of her child. Another still has hope, hers will be found. Someone is waiting in a long line to fill a bucket of water, to wet the dry throats of their kids. Another will use that water to have a portion, and they pray, asking themselves, will prayers even work? Innocent kids return to their tent, crying with empty pots. There was not enough food, they tell their parentless siblings. Underneath me, a sad earth, waiting for bodies with no coffins to be buried, but it is too late as they are already decayed. Somewhere under rubble, in a farm, beside an unexploded missile, or even trapped in a tank's tracked wheels. I reach my tent in the camp. My dad is talking to people with the blue vests. They gave our tent a number. They sprayed that number outside the tent with paint. I'm asking myself, will this be our permanent address? Will this be our permanent address? One of my sisters is still living in a tent in Khan Yunis, and a few months ago I called her, and it was very hot. It was the dead of the summer in Gaza, especially in that deserted area. It was July, end of July. And I told her, how are you feeling? How is the tent? She said, it's hell. So I wrote this poem titled Hell Tent. Hell Tent. Harsh reality, Gaza isn't a movie scene. Endless struggle. A reality that is harsh and mean. Loss and pain, many of us don't know what they mean. Listening closely, I asked my sister, what does it mean to go through hell every day and live in a tent? No respite. It's obvious, she sighs. Torment, unending. It is hell. Shorter poems. I'm sorry, Grandma. Unfortunately, many of us who call for ceasefire and an end to this war, we think once there is a ceasefire, the war will end. And I absolutely don't believe that. The pain will always chase our families back home. The pain and the trauma will always chase our families. The memories, the nightmares that they have been living in will always chase them. I wrote this poem titled, It Is Never Over. Even if the war ends, it does not end, that is an if. Who will put off the fire of pain that it caused to those who lost the closest people in their lives? Yes, the war is never over, even if it is over. Who would give us this closure we dreamt of having before they let go? So many stories were incomplete, many dreams were unachieved, many hopes were unfulfilled, many deep breaths were untaken, many letters unopened, many corpses unharvested. The war is never over, even it is over. Even if it is over. How can it be over if it is over when the pain is never over still? Just like every generation who has a free country, we all have dreams. I myself had dreams before the war. My siblings had dreams. My friends back home had dreams. And we still have dreams. The title of this poem is I Had a Simple Dream. Martin Luther King said, I have a dream and I say I had a simple dream. A homeland, my grandmother's lab, a place with no fear, a good friend to accompany me, and maybe, just maybe, a right to vote. 4 seasons, a winter warmed by love, a summer refreshed by hope that does not tire me, nor burden me to cope. A spring blossoming with beauty, unbroken by life's storms. A fall rich with goodness. Keeping safe what I own, keeping me warm. I had a simple dream, not a cramped tent with sleepless nights, not a scattered family across distant sites, and definitely not a war that killed our smiles, aged our sun-tanned skin, and ended our simple dreams. I no longer have a dream. they killed that little dream. This is the shortest and the last poem. When I do poetry, when I participate in poetry events, I like to end the poetry reading with some hope. The title of this poem is Pretty, and it is about Gaza, who are unfortunately not pretty when you see it on social media, but in our hearts, Gaza will always stay pretty. Pretty. Gaza was a pretty they tried to break. Gaza was a pretty they tried to break, but it is still pretty for goodness sake. Tried to ruin, did not succeed. Gaza stays a pretty, that's all we need. And thank you so much again.
Can we do that together? Today we're holding space for healing, and in order to do that, sometimes it's gonna be hard stuff that we're talking through. So, like she said, I wear many hats, but as a poet, I am something you call a holla back poet. I don't know if y'all know what that means, but that means I want y'all to talk to me. So can we all say, I like that, okay? Can I hear some snaps? Can I hear some, ooh, that was good.
Ooh, that was good.
I love it, thank you, thank you, thank you. So we're gonna go on a journey together. And I have 4 poems that I'm going to be speaking today. And it's gonna be a journey to peace. So we're gonna go from the first thing, which is what the heck? And then that's the incident. Whatever your incident is, for me, it was genocide. For you, it could be trauma. For you, it could be issues and assault. But the what the heck happens. And so my first poem is the what the heck. And I'm gonna be reading 3 poems from my book, Poetic Bones, Ode to the Genocide Survivor. I'm the ugly truth of gunshots and lifeless bodies leaving fear and anger toward loved ones. The only baths I take involve blood. Death cries out my name. Your life could be vain if you don't rep my name. Your parents try to drink me out of their subconscious being, but after their bloodshot eyes turn clear again, the memories of me still creep in. Who am I? You can call me hate. I'll answer by teaching your kids that they can get away with murder as long as they have a sorry excuse as little as hating the differences of their brothers and sisters in the north. Hutus against Tutsis in the south. Tutsis against Hutus fighting, but the reason's still unknown. Who am I? The many millions of lost souls. Who am I? Genocide. Africa. It's been years, we haven't forgotten about you. Foreign has taken care of us. We survived. We're alive. We live. We live to tell the tales. We live to be peace bearers. We live to be peacemakers. We live to tell a new tale. We live to tell the tale of resilience. We live to tell the tale, but we sing a new song with voices of love to blow away the hate. So the incident happens, right? Yeah, an incident happens. After the incident, there is a process that happens. And in this process, we learn to grow, we learn to heal, we learn to grieve, and it is a journey of becoming. And so the next 2 poems are going to be about that process. So this first one is called Dandelion, and it kind of just shares and speaks on recognizing being different. When you've experienced, there's that space where you go through different. And so this poem is called Dandelion. I know. I am a dandelion in the rose garden. And I've tried using the thorns around me to cut. Thorns around me to cut me red, but instead I stick out like a sore thumb. Especially on the first day of class when they ask me where I'm from. And honestly, I've been planted here. But the camp from which I originated has been demolished, so the honest answer is I have no birthplace. I'm from a holding cell. Well, truthfully, the only thing awaiting you is bad news. The only thing you can smell is fear and anxiety disguised as hope as you wait to hear your fate. But this holding cell is not permanent. There are those that are chosen. And when you are chosen, you never stop running from your battles. They're just named different. No longer are you fighting for your life, you are now fighting to preserve it. I've transformed from cockroach to freeloader. My problems are now attached to my melanin and I don't know who I am anymore. I have pressure to be African around my American friends and I can hear my ancestors whispering, Ewe Naomi, Beka Watwibaki. My daughter, no matter how much education you get, remember where you came from. Because if you don't know where you have been, you will never know where you are going. But my accent is heavy, and my dialect, where do I fit in? I am first generation of trial and error, more error than trials, and I can't shake the feeling that I should be anywhere than where I am right now. Breathe in. You would think that all this darkness would dim one's light, but it's helped me to shine brighter. My legacy will be as big as the sun that reaches every dark crevice, and as small as the voice you fear to reveal. Breathe out. I know. I am a dandelion, and that's okay. We're going to read. It is also about the process, but it's a process of pursuing different. And this poem is called The Hardest Thing About Surviving. The hardest thing about surviving is surviving. Will my legacy be worth it? Why was I chosen while they died? Does my mediocrity spit on the graves of those who could have been great? Why me? Will my effort be worth it? Where is my safe? I almost envy you who no longer suffer this unbearable run-on sentence called life. You are resting, but is it in peace? Your death can't be in vain. I've got so much work to do. May my survival bring your rest peace. The hardest thing about surviving is surviving. We are now cultural bastards, not sure about the truth, too many sides to sift through. Those who experienced firsthand refuse to share. Some of what's being published was written by the problem. Where do we find truth? The hardest thing about surviving is surviving. Every day, carrying foreign trauma that shows up as, yo, check your attitude. You don't get to be sad. You survived. What a waste of borrowed time. ADHD got my hands in a million things, depression, but I can't quite put my finger on it. The hardest thing about surviving is learning how to thrive and feeling guilty that you're thriving. The hardest part of surviving is not knowing how to fix what I didn't break. Feeling like I came to a forest fire with a water bottle and still pouring. Hoping my attempts will be enough to spark others to pour. The hardest thing about surviving is surviving, but may my survival bring your rest peace. The last poem that I have for you guys is an original one that I wrote the last time that I was here. And it goes to the last part. When you're pursuing peace, there's this new charge that we get where we're living out our healing and helping others to do the same. And I love how it comes full circle. And so this poem is called Fear Free. Things I don't understand. Gyms. Gyms are just rooms full of heavy stuff that people pay to lift over and over again. I don't understand the obsession with pizza. It's just bread with seasoned tomato sauce, pause. I don't understand that as a refugee, I end up becoming refuge to battered souls that are masked with I'm fine, but I've seen through it. You aren't fine. You just lack places called safe and spaces with time to sift through transitions in this place. And I don't understand why French fries aren't even French. And why Applebee's don't sell apples or bees. Back to the gyms. I don't understand fear. Fear is just a mental gym full of heavy stuff that costs to lift over and over again. And I wonder how we could be fear-free when fear is actually not free. It costs. Consider the place where dreams take flight. It's usually in the darkest of night and sometimes distracted by storms. You've been there before, yeah? There's a whisper you often hear unclear, encouraging you to confront that impossible, saying bigger, greater, more. You look around at what you see and you fall back like chains that bind you. You notice all you lack because in the shadows of doubt, it thrives, imprisoning dreams and somehow keeping them alive. I don't understand it. But pause for a moment and consider the cost. Your dreams untold are waiting to be pursued. Fear's cost is heavy, a burden bold, the biggest stick of kid, robbing you of chances, robbing you of joy untamed, beating you, then leaving you stranded, alone and unnamed. It stifles your voice, your potential unseen, and turns what should have been your vibrant colors into shades of routine. Can you count it? The cost. I don't understand. The cost is far too expensive. It costs way too much. It costs the purpose that you were supposed to stir in me when walking out your fear-free. Conquer its grips, break free from its hold, challenge its power, be brave and bold, be fear-free. I can admit, I don't understand a lot, and I'm most hopeful that you would consider the cost of glory, chavad. The Hebrew word for glory means weight. And fear is just a mental gym full of chavad that costs to lift over and over again. Consider the cost. I wish fear could be free, but instead settle for being fearful. Thank you.
incredible. You're amazing. So talented. Oh my goodness. I can't believe you're my friend. Okay. Wow. All right. Up next is John Davis, the one that introduced me. I have the honor of introducing him now. So John Davis is a highly sought after poet, Ubuntu advocate, a facilitator with over 13,000 hours in practice, a modern day psalmist, and community builder. He is the author of a volume of poems and letters called Becoming More Human, Words from the Soul. John has written poems for immigrant and refugee leaders about the gifts of their leadership and creative talents. He has written for Our Bridge for Kids and performed poems at the Brooklyn Poets Festival and NDC Francophonie Festival. He regularly performs the poems for large gatherings, and his last two sold-out shows centered on the theme of the Zulu word, Sawubona, or I see you and I value you, your whole presence. Please help me welcome John Davis to the stage.
Y'all, we've been sitting for a minute, so why don't we just stand up for a second, shake it out a little bit. If you need to, well, actually look at Bertha, just get the little shimmy. Say hi to your neighbor real quick, tell them how great they look. Something you love about them, something you love. Okay. All right, great, so you can grab seats again. It's only one poem. I'm going to be brief. And okay. Hey, can we give it up for Victor up here on the keys? Let's go. Let's go, Victor. Y'all, this guy asked for all of our poems recorded in advance so he could study the emotion behind it to catch the right keys. That is like, you're living Sawubona. So thank you, my brother. One more time. Wish you luck. Y'all, and can we give love to Muhammad and Naomi and Marjan, who's absolutely with us. Thus far, one of my favorite moments was Bertha reading her bio. And just Naomi, I know Naomi's already been like, if you spend 5 minutes with her, by the way, you should afterwards, something will change in you. Like, we had one conversation and my consulting business got going again. And so, come on, speak back to life. Let's go. Come on. I mean, it was so good. And, I'm going to be thinking a lot. What's seared in my heart is your mother. And thinking about my mother and what that means. So thank you for the poets in here. Thank you for my friend Brittany over here, who Bertha and I met last week, and we're promoting the show, and all of a sudden we're like, yeah, no, I'm a poet too. We're reading poems, we're praying for each other. And last night at a show, she talked about how she wants to seek the Lord with every word, and that seared into my heart and gave me courage this morning. So I just want to, if you could look at your neighbor real quick and just say, you're the change we've been waiting for. Real quick, you're the change we've been waiting for. You're the change we've been waiting for. That there's a great kids book. If you love kids' book, I'm secretly a 4-year-old trapped in a 43-year-old's body. It's called One, and the last line says, it just takes one. And this poem is about how it just takes one to change hearts. It is about my dear friend, Sil Ganzo, who's from Argentina. Sil is lives in Charlotte now. And this story it's even hard for me to share what inspired this poem. Sil runs an after-school program for immigrant and refugee youth representing over 31 countries. So much love to anyone in here who's creating spaces of home. Ben Hatt, who's in here, works in communications for Global Refuge, creating spaces, advocacy, and work that we all, as Bertha said, we all have a stake in the game, and I don't think we change until we are as discomforted by someone's suffering and their uncomfort as if it's our own. You heard the word Ubuntu in my bio, which just means a person is a person through other persons. If you're oppressed or silenced, I am too, but if you're experiencing excellence and greatness, then I can't be threatened by how great you are, because the better you are, the better I am. And when we start getting as discomforted, not because we should be discomforted, but because we are a part of each other. And we heard that Naomi just dropping lyrical dimes over here. Come on, give it up for Naomi again. So I think that's when we change, is when we change hearts. Otherwise, we're just going to academic this thing to death, and it's going to be conceptual. So I hope that there's something else you walk away with, that you would write and create the things that break your heart. And someone not being seen breaks my heart. So Sil starts this after-school program, culturally competent meals for students of all countries. And she tells me a story one time about a parents' meeting. And at the parents' meeting, her staff, and it's trauma-informed, culturally competent staff, that there was a man in the back, a parent, who was intoxicated. And he's just being unruly in the meeting. And as well as even me, I probably would have done, most of her staff was like, we need to call the authorities. And what Sil did exemplifies the title of this poem, which is Someone with a Heart Without Borders. She went and she sat next to this man and started distracting him, knowing, as Bertha has said here, that people who have been through the most suffering really should be leading us through alleviating the suffering. And Sil distracted him, started speaking loud, said, I can't hear you, I can't hear you, let's go outside, let's go outside. Gets him to go outside. He was newly arrived from Guatemala, and it turns out he was intoxicated because he was hurting so much from only being able to get manual labor, so much that his hands were calloused and could no longer be used, so he couldn't do his passion of drawing. And somehow this country had suffocated this man's soul. And for her to show him that kind of dignity, to not call somebody and to see him, and at the root of it all was that this man just wanted to draw. I thought about what would it be like if you said, John, you can no longer write poetry. And so this is called A Heart Without Borders. In a world that tries to put borders and lines in the way of how we love, welcome, and relate, a heart without borders will never abate. When others see barriers, this kind of love builds bridges. When others count out, it will count you in, because a heart without borders is what eradicates misunderstanding and hate. It might say, here, have some of mine, because, well, let's be honest, none of this is really mine. There is plenty to go around, and I'm not okay until you are fine. A heart without borders creates a feeling of home, a respite and a place to heal wherever one might roam. It is a dose of hope in moments of despair, standing with you when fear draws too near, and bringing a gentle ear that says, tell me more, I want to hear. Because a heart without borders always wants to hear your sounds. It knows no bounds, no walls, no divides, no confines. It just sees so fully what is right in front of us. A human being, another heart that just wants to beat at its own pace, Not too fast and not too slow, just alive and breathing with air. The air of love, free expression, culture, and tongue that sometimes wonders, do you have space? But a heart without borders always creates place. Knowing the more we listen and humble from sharing our air, I can understand what makes you, you, and how you are a part of me, flooding my eyes with love and a new ability to see, where we finally stand together, stepping into that world we know we can be. A world where your heart is part of my heart, and where you will never find any border in me. Thank you. Would everybody stand? Just share that last line. If you could look at your neighbor, but see if you can actually look them in the eye and feel them. And just repeat after me, if you're willing, where we finally stand together, stepping into that world we know we can be. A world where your heart is part of my heart, and where you will never find any border in me.
So next, I am gonna bring us home with this one last poem. It's called Pursuit of Peace. I wrote this again in honor of this day. I was just thinking, I have so many poems, but what do I want people to know about this process of peace building? The people who are going to show up at this event, what are, if nothing else, what peace building, because I studied peace building. It's a whole field, it's an academic field, it's a professional field. But for the people who are not in the field or who maybe have never heard of that word or they don't know what that means, what do I want them to know? What's a simple explanation of that I can give them? And that's how I came up with this poem. PEACE, a simple 5-letter word, palatable for the tongue, light for the spirit, invocation for the soul, comfort for the heart. Peace, a basic need for all, yet unmet for many. You see, peace is not a destination, but rather a journey. A journey filled with thorns, thistles, deserted roads, and rocky winding paths. A journey that holds the tension of rivers, lakes, streams, and ponds before emptying them into the vast ocean where the tension resolves. A journey that preceded the creation of mankind, yet established with humanity in mind. A journey that emerged with a big bang, but often misunderstood by its beneficiaries. Peace is not a destination, but rather a journey. A journey meant for all humanity, but became an abandoned creed. A journey misinterpreted by the mind and heart, but very well understood by the soul and spirit. A journey that conflicts with human nature, but straying from it guarantees the production of afflictions and calamities. A journey often trampled on the ground, yet dependent on the sustainability of the soul and continuation of humanity. Peace is not a destination, but rather a journey. A journey that replenishes the soul of the pursuer and hunts the soul of the antagonist. A journey meant for eternal gains, yet demoted and captured by capitalism.
A journey that resists the propensity of each and every race while pushing them to deeper depths and greater quality of life. A journey that brings smiles to the heart of some and resentment to others. A journey that promised to fulfill or raise and creed while its trivialization continues to lead to unfulfillment and reduced quality of life. A journey gifted to all by vertical powers to be accepted, enjoyed in horizontal motions, yet rejected and prioritized by many. A simple 5-letter word. Palatable for the tongue, light for the spirit, invocation for the soul, comfort for the heart, peace. A basic need for all, yet unmet for many. Peace is not a destination, but rather a journey. Will you join me on this journey?